Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Santosh. I'm the ICU I was. Now I'm doing my coordinator secondment job. So it's mixed two in one. So today I thought I will just do a very interesting, very important topic for you. What's your name? Sam. Oh, I was caring for a VN patient actually. I forgot to wash my hands. It was not it's scary, isn't it? Yeah? Joking, kidding. I was not. 5th of May, that is, anyone knows what it is? World Hand Hygiene. Yes? 5th of May. So help is normally when we are doing some topics here, it will be relevant to that month. Maybe April we have done falls. So it is relevant to that month we are doing some topics. So this is hand hygiene day is coming on Sunday. So we can do an in-service on Sunday. You will be resting at home maybe. So we are doing it today. No, you are not? You are working? Yes. So it is very important to keep our hands clean. Why? Because we are healthy. If I was right, I mean, I forgot to wash after we are a patient care, you will get that infection. But as you are young, energetic, you are walking around, no comorbidities, no sickness, you may come out of that VRE infection, or you may your immune system is very high. So it's okay, it may be okay for you, but just imagine about your patient. They are sick, they are aged, they have a lot of comorbidities, their immune system is down. In that situation, if you are doing something, they will be down and maybe they may have to spend more days in hospital. Moreover, they may not come out of that sickness. So it is very important. Wash your hands. So in each in-service, even with the checking temperature, if you're going for in-service, don't think that, oh, I know how to wash my hand, I know how to check the temperature. You will get something from that in-service, believe me. Because the person who is doing the in-service, he must have done a lot of research, he must have gone through a lot of reading and everything. So definitely you are going to get something from today. And this is very important as a healthcare workers. Hand hygiene is very important. You will know that by the end of this presentation. Okay. So let's to what we are going to today is we will talk about 5 moments later. But initially, do you know who is the founder of hand hygiene? No? That person is coming soon. So I'm going to show a short video. That video is very interesting. So after seeing that video first time, I was thinking that, oh, I should be more careful when I'm caring for the patient. I should wash my hands and everything. So you'll get that feeling. If someone watched this video before, just watch it again. This video contains a little bit of surgical procedures and childbirth and death and everything. You all are okay with that? Yes? Okay. Let's turn off the light for baby, then we can watch. Do you think, or it won't make any difference? Maybe a movie feeling, yeah? So let's start that. Yeah?
The magnificent capital of Hungary was once 2 towns on either side of the beautiful Blue Danube River. The hilly town of Buda on one side, and across the river on the plains was the town of Pest. In 1873, the 2 towns were united as Budapest. Budapest is considered one of the most romantic and beautiful cities in Europe and attracts over 5 million international tourists every year. It has something for everyone, from dramatic history and flamboyant architecture to healing thermal waters, medieval monuments, and wonderful museums. During the 18th century, the towns were under the rule of Charles III. Buda and Pest were insignificant provincial towns that later fell under the control of Vienna and became part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This empire became one of Europe's major powers in the late 19th century and lasted from 1867 to 1918. It became the second largest country in Europe after the Russian Empire, but broke apart into several states at the end of World War I. 100 years earlier, on the 1st of July 1818, Ignaz Philipp Semmelweis was born in Taban, an area of Old Buda. He was the 5th child of 10 born to the prosperous Grosser family of Joseph Semmelweis. Their son, Ignaz Semmelweis, was known as a curious child. He would often get into trouble at school for asking too many questions that disrupted the class. When Ignaz finished school, he left his home in Budapest and travelled to Vienna, the capital of Austria. There, in the autumn of 1837, Semmelweis began studying law at the University of Vienna. But the following year, he switched to study medicine. He graduated in 1844 and was awarded his degree in medicine from the University of Vienna. He applied for an appointment in a clinic for internal medicine and was bitterly disappointed when he didn't get the position. Semmelweis decided to specialize in obstetrics, the branch of medicine and surgery concerned with childbirth and midwifery. And on the 1st of July 1846, he was appointed assistant to Professor Johann Klein in the first obstetrical clinic of the Vienna General Hospital, and became an obstetrician at the Vienna Maternity and Labour and Delivery Hospital. Semmelweis loved his work, but he became increasingly distressed by the number of women that died after childbirth. At that time, in the first half of the 19th century, women giving birth in Europe were ravaged by puerperal fever, also known as childbed fever, which was caused by a bacterial infection following childbirth or a miscarriage. The women would suffer from high fevers, severe abdominal pain, chills, pale skin, and discharge, and many would eventually die from the infection. The standard procedure by medical staff at this time was to bleed the patient. Now, the process of bleeding involved cutting the patient's arm and letting at least half a litre of blood flow out. Few women recovered after the bloodletting. This medical procedure worried Semmelweis, and by 1847, he decided to investigate what was causing the childbed fever and find ways that it could be prevented. Semmelweis was only 29 years old when he became the chief obstetrician in charge of 2 maternity clinics in a hospital in Vienna. The first clinic was at a medical school in which pregnant women were treated by experienced doctors and their medical students. The doctors in this first clinic had a regular daily schedule. Their first task at the beginning of each day was to perform autopsies in the morgue on corpses of women who had died the previous day. Then the doctors would move on to treating other patients with infections or diseases. And finally, they went to the maternity ward to the women in labour and delivered the babies. The second clinic was a gratis institution that offered free medical care to poor or underprivileged women, including prostitutes. In return for the free services, the women would be the patients of midwives and their students. So, at this charity clinic for pregnant women, all the babies were delivered by midwives. In fact, virtually all the work of this clinic was performed by midwives and midwifery students. Now, what was interesting was that the mortality rate from childbed fever at this clinic was only 2%, whereas at the first clinic, where the doctors performed the work, the average mortality rate from childbed fever was about 16%. This was a significantly higher rate than the second clinic. Now, of course, the big question was, what was causing the difference? Why did the doctor's clinic have a much higher death rate than the midwife clinic? These mortality rates soon became widely known outside the hospital, and due to the bad reputation of the first clinic, women who were admitted there begged the doctors to be admitted to the second clinic that was run by the midwives. Semmelweis described desperate women begging on their knees not to be admitted to the first clinic. This worried Semmelweis. He desperately wanted to find out why the doctor's patients had so many more deaths than those of the midwives. The dominant view at the time was that something in the air, or putrid tendencies in Vienna, caused childbed fever. But Semmelweis considered this nonsense, as both clinics were in the same hospital and close to each other. Another theory was overcrowding, but that was also ridiculous, because the Free Charity Clinic was far more crowded than the clinic for pain patients run by the doctors. Even the diets and general care in both clinics were the same. Further, even the way the babies were delivered was the same, because both the doctors and the midwives were using the same methods and techniques. So Semmelweis decided it was time to begin a more thorough and painstaking investigation into the practices of the hospital. Without understanding how, he discovered that infection is spread from one patient to another by contact, and in particular, facilitated by frequent internal patient examinations by the doctors and medical students. These doctors and their medical students, as we've seen, went from the morgue, where they examined corpses, straight to the delivery rooms, and Semmelweis began to realize that there must be a connection. The doctors must have carried something on their hands from the dead body to the women giving birth. The doctors' hands were almost always dirty and had a foul odour after leaving the morgue, and they didn't wash their hands before going on to see their patients. This gave Semmelweis an idea. Maybe he could develop and implement a strict practice of hand washing with disinfectant by the doctors before every patient contact. To his amazement, just the simple practice of the doctors washing their hands between patients reduced the hospital death rate down to practically zero. He'd found the cure. All you have to do is wash your hands. It's just as simple as that. But the response of the medical fraternal to his discovery was truly surprising. They flatly rejected this simple cure. The hospital administration and general medical community refused to adopt Semmelweis's ideas or practice. Well, their open resistance and ridicule surprised, dismayed, and angered him. Lives were at stake. This was a life and death matter. Semmelweis was so enraged at the medical establishment's failure to even consider a simple hand-washing trial to save lives that he wrote letters to medical journals accusing the doctors of being murderers. Well, of course, this didn't endear him to the medical fraternal or make him popular with his peers. It was only after a colleague accidentally punctured his finger with a scalpel during an autopsy in the morgue and subsequently died of septicemia a few days later that Semmelweis had proof of the connection between the morgue and the maternity rooms. His friend developed a high fever and all of the other symptoms that the women had when they died of childbed fever. Semmelweis concluded that his doctor colleague and the women with childbed fever died from the same cause. He now had proof that there was a connection between the soiled hands of the doctors and childbed fever in women who were examined by them. Semmelweis then established a system of cleaning hands for all those working in the first clinic. He ordered that all doctors, medical students and midwives wash their hands in chlorinated lime before examining the women. The result was remarkable. In 1 year, the death rate from childbed fever dropped from around 16% to 1.2% in the doctor's clinic and from 2.8% to 1.3% in the midwife section. He even recommended that all instruments used on patients also be cleansed with chlorinated lime solutions. Unfortunately, Semmelweis found continued skepticism and scorn among his colleagues wherever he went. His focus on clean hands and cleanliness was considered extreme and largely ignored, rejected or ridiculed. In desperation, he began passing out handbills in the street, telling women to demand that their doctors wash their hands. But this is where Semmelweis ran into more trouble. Sadly, his observations conflicted with the established scientific and medical opinion of the time. His perfectly reasonable hand-washing suggestions were ridiculed and rejected by his contemporaries, and even by Professor Johann Klein, the medical director and his first boss in Vienna. Klein is alleged to have instructed Semmelweis,
"Keep yourself to what is old, for that is good. If your ancestors have proven it to be good, why should we not do as they did? Mistrust new ideas. I have no need of learned men. I need faithful and obedient subjects. He who would serve me must do what I command. He who cannot do this or who comes full of new ideas may go his way. If he does not, I shall send him." Do you understand, Dr. Semmelweis?
it was Professor Johann Klein who subsequently stripped Semmelweis of his university and hospital position and repeatedly blocked his career progress in Vienna. His contract in Vienna was terminated, and he was dismissed from the hospital for political reasons. Although hand-washing was hugely successful, and despite various publications of results in 1861, where hand-washing reduced mortality to below 1%, Semmelweis's observations conflicted with the established scientific and medical opinions of the time, and so his ideas were rejected by the medical community and those in authority. Part of the problem was that Semmelweis couldn't offer any acceptable scientific explanation for his findings. And also, some doctors were offended at the suggestion that they should wash their hands and mocked him for it. Some doctors refused to believe that their hands, a gentleman's hands, could transmit disease. He was continually harassed by the medical community in Vienna and was eventually forced to move back to Budapest. Semmelweis couldn't find a job, so he worked as the unpaid head physician at the obstetric ward in Pest's Sambrokisch Hospital and virtually eliminated the epidemic of childbed fever there. Yet Ide Florian Burley, professor of obstetrics at the University of Pest, considered Semmelweis crazy and mentally unstable, and continued to believe that childbed fever was caused by a dirty colon and treated it with enemas. Fortunately for the patients, Semmelweis replaced him in 1854. He immediately implemented chlorine hand washing and instrument washing, and childbed fever almost disappeared in his clinic. In 1857, he married Maria Wiedenhofer, who was 19 years younger than him, and they had 5 children. All this time, Semmelweis was focused on his work. He was outraged by the continued indifference of the medical profession to the cure for childbed fever. In desperation, he began writing open and increasingly angry letters to prominent European obstetricians, at times denouncing them as irresponsible murderers. Eventually, he became severely depressed, overawed by his frustration and inability to save the mothers of Europe. His contemporaries, including his wife, believed he was losing his mind. And in 1865, nearly 20 years after his breakthrough, he was committed to an insane asylum in Vienna. Ignaz Semmelweis died 2 weeks later on the 13th of August 1865, aged just 47.
So it's a bit long video, so we'll stop here. It is a nice video, isn't it? Yeah. So how modern it is. We need to wash our hands. He was the one who found that. Do you see some sort of similar characteristics in your daily life or in your workplace? Some people are a bit resistive, isn't it? If you insist, if you ask them to wash their hands, sometimes they can be a bit resistive. But it is, anyway, so it is very important to tell them that they need to wash their hands to prevent infection, spreading infection. So we'll come back to our business now. Sorry. So, do you want to say anything about the video which you have seen? Any comments? Yeah. You want to say something? Yeah. It's a very interesting video. If you search, it is available in YouTube. So it is a lengthy, maybe 20-25 minutes lengthy video. So you can see that. So some people maybe not washing their hands because of many reasons. Anybody want to say some reason? Sometimes we miss. Sometimes we don't. The frequent reasons they are telling. Sometimes. Do you want to say any reason? Why excuse? Not reason. Excuses. Who are not washing their hands. Sorry. Tired? Yeah, busy. Yeah, they do sometimes. Anything else? Anybody want to say?
I have dermatitis.
Dermatitis. Yes. Yeah. Some people say that they got very dry skin. Yeah. Any other reason?
My hands are not dirty. They don't look dirty.
Yeah,
So they're not dirty.
yeah, that's true. A gentleman hand is not.
Yeah.
You cannot carry any organs. Yeah.
There's not enough hand washing facilities,
Facilities.
especially if you're doing like a dressing in the ward.
Yes.
You can't change back on the sterile clothes, so to go and wash hands outside the room,
Yes.
it's a bit
Yeah.
difficult.
The location of the scene.
Sinks, yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Anything else?
I've used gloves.
Yes, I have used gloves. So, yeah. Because we can't see any microorganisms in our hand, isn't it? Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes. Yeah. Sorry.
But said we don't have enough hand sanitizer.
Yes, that can be one reason. Not enough hand washing thing. So as you can see, you can read this. The Australia World Hand Hygiene Day. So that is May 5th. That's why we are doing this presentation. So we'll just go to hand hygiene is a general term referring in any action of hand cleansing. You can do either with soap and water, or you can do with the alcohol-based hand rub. Only 5% of people wash their hands correctly. That is a new thing for me. When I was searching, see, only 5% of people wash their hands correctly. Make sure you are not one of them. Yeah, you are one of them. You are not that 95%. We just discussed this hand hygiene. Why we sometimes we miss to wash hand. Heavy workloads, time consuming, hand doesn't appear dirty. Problems with the skin irritation. Sinks poorly located, wearing gloves at all. Oh my God, I'm so impressed. We discussed all this just now, isn't it? So we all know the reasons. Yeah. That's very good. So I will just go a bit fast because we need to complete this. 5 moments of hand wash. So if you can say, some of you can say that, you can, what is the 5 moments? First one. Before touching the patient. Before touching patient means if you are going and doing something, okay, you are sitting up the patient, or if you are giving something to the patient before touching the patient, yeah, wash your hands. And before a procedure, like IVC insertion or any other procedure which is maybe invasive, you can easily differentiate that. Broken skin is a procedure. So if you're doing something with broken skin, you can say that it's procedure. Before a procedure, then after a procedure, isn't it? Yeah. After a procedure, or if you are emptying the urinary catheter, the what do you call the bag, urinary bag, then after that you need to wash your hands. After that, then what is the fourth one? After touching a patient, okay, you sat up the patient. When you're going out of the room, you need to wash your hands because you are not going. You don't want to take anything, as we discussed in the beginning. You don't want to take anything from there. What is the fifth one?
After touching a patient environment.
Yes, very good. After touching patient surroundings. After touching patient surroundings, if you're going there and moving the table, not touching the patient, but moving the patient table or giving the buzzer to the patient, not touching the patient. That is after touching the patient surrounding. Then you may ask, before touching the patient surrounding? No, that is not included. So, before touching a patient, before a procedure, after a procedure, after touching patient, after touching the patient surrounding. These are the 5 moments. So, sorry. So you know the patient zone and healthcare zone. See, patient A and B, the healthcare worker is giving the infection. We discuss all this, okay? After a procedure, after touching a patient, you need to wash. Healthcare worker, colonization, environmental contamination, minimize the dissemination to healthcare environment. That is purpose for that. Okay, so anyone got any questions on that? No? We are going a bit fast because time, we don't have much time, that's why. Okay, we got a policy there that is telling us again, before touching patient, after touching patient, before procedure, after patients, touching patients' surroundings. I just wanted to ask you, what is social hand washing? So it is given here, but if anyone say that this guidelines for hand hygiene, routine or social hand hygiene. So it is already given there, 10 to 15 seconds. So you can wash with liquid soap, water, and you can use alcohol-based hand rub. Yeah, and the procedure is 30 to 60 seconds. That is policy says, and surgical is 5 minutes. Yes, isn't it? You are not. Yeah, to the windows. Yeah, the theater nurses are there. So when you are doing that, anybody want to show how to do that? Okay, come to front. Then
Which one? Surgical?
no, not surgical. Just yeah. Yes. 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 Then each finger. Yes. And then yes. So it is given here in a right way, because why only 5% people were washing their hands correctly? Because they were missing some part, that's why. So if you can read this, wash palm to palm, right arm over the back of the left palm over the back of the right hand, palm to palm, fingers and friction between fingers, back of the fingers opposing palms. Hold right thumb with the left hand, rotate reverse action, rotate fingertips in opposite palm. That's the way we are doing. So that is the one we discussed already. Sam or anybody, do you want to show us how to do? Okay, remove the watch, that's right thing. Okay, always remove the ring or watch or anything, then you can do that. Yeah. You want to turn around, do you mind? No. Yeah, okay. Very good. Yeah. Did we miss this? Yeah. Take that, yeah. So don't forget to do the fingers wash also. So it is, we got a very, we got a big responsibility to keep our patient's life safe. Wash your hands. Okay, before touching the patient, before procedure, after touching patient, after the procedure, after touching patient's surrounding. We will do it from today, isn't it? If somebody is not doing what you do, you just friendly, and if you, especially as students, don't worry about their position. Maybe they are doctors, executives, whoever that is, you need to stop them and say gently. There is a hand wash. You want to wash your hands before going out. Before doing that, we need to say that. That's our responsibility. Same like some of his, he was very strong and he was having all the resistance from everywhere, but he was strongly standing for his vision. Yeah. Anybody want to ask anything? Otherwise, we can stop. Do you want to share any of your stories? Anybody want to say anything? Do you have any stories? Somebody was resisting. No, I'm not going to wash and we see. Somebody said something. Any stories? Anybody want to share? Sandra, you want to say something?
I always have something to say if you ask me. And I was going to say that during COVID, we actually see quite a good number of people starting to understand the importance of hand hygiene. But I think because of the lax now, people are a little bit relaxed because COVID is gone. But if we keep that momentum that we had in COVID, it is really good because everybody understood, even the lay person understood, every mother who had a little hand sanitizer for her children and everything. So we keep that momentum, it will help.
Yes, that's very good. Yes. So I recommend watch this video also. That is very inspiring. When I saw that video, it was more inspiring. I watched the full video, and it is a bit of sad story after that. But he married 19 years younger than him, and they got 6 kids. That was amazing. He did a very good job.
If you married at 6 kids and then died at 47.
47.
So how old was the young man? Because he was.
The same was I was doing that. Then I went home and calculated everything. I used a calculator actually. Maybe I was thinking that twins sometimes maybe triplets or something. All right. Okay. So thank you very much. Every Thursday 2:15 we have. Please sign on and do the feedback form if you can. There's a feedback form. Feedback. That's all.